Got a fish on, guys. Shallow water here, trolling 5 feet deep. 5 feet deep back here. Fish on, skimming it right across the bottom. This is the pink Trout Trix worm, and that looked like a good fish the way he hit. I'm gonna turn on this other camera. So no other boats around us here, so that's good. So haven't been on Collins in about 2 weeks. Been taking a captain's course, and that's kept me pretty busy for the last 10 days or so. So I haven't actually fished out here in a couple weeks. Ooh, this feels like a nice fish. The drag is right. I might have a problem with that lead core. I am on that lead core. It looks like I'm under it though. Let's get the tip down. Let's see what we got here. Forward momentum, guys. That's the name of the game. When you're fighting a fish by yourself, you keep forward momentum and use the boat or, you know, the kayak, whatever the case may be, to control that fish. In 12 feet of water here, plenty of depth. The fish is 14 feet away, and he does feel like a nice fish. I'm expecting him to go crazy at any minute here. The net's ready. I haven't seen a fish. Head shaking going on down there. Oh, big lightning trout. Oh, he came off right there. Big lightning trout. That's awesome. I was going to let him go anyway. That was cool. Whew, got one here. Got one on the trigger minnow in bright orange. Whew. On the lead core. That's down 10 feet or so. My 200-pound net ready. See if we can land this one. Oh, he's fighting. He is fighting. Oh, nice fish. Another lightning trout. Another lightning trout. What's up with me and lightning trout? I never caught a lightning trout. Now I catch a bunch of them. It seems like I catch more lightning trout than rainbows for some reason. Go figure. This isn't as big as that first one that I lost, but he's a nice fish. Oh, he's a nice fish. Lost him right there. That's what happens when you give them slack. Fish on, trigger minnow. That rod tip nice and low like that. It's just a small fish. It's kind of water skiing in. Orange trigger minnow right there, right through the lower jaw. You get him back in the water, and then I want to talk a little bit about hooking and landing fish and hooking and losing fish. So let me get this guy off the hook. Got my pliers here. There he goes. There's the bait right there. Orange trigger minnow. That fish was laying right off the end of that point, and I couldn't lay off that soft plastic minnow. I'm gonna get this back out in the water, and then we're gonna talk about hooking and landing fish and hooking and losing fish. I'll be right back at you. Okay, I'm back, and if I look like I'm distracted and I'm looking around, because I'm trolling very close to the bank, and there are some other boats out here, so I'm watching the depth over there on the sonar. I'm watching the bank, I'm watching the rods, I'm watching a lot of things as I talk to you folks. Let's talk about hooking and landing fish and hooking and losing fish. Today, I've hooked 3 fish. I hooked a big lightning trout, maybe 4.5 or 5 pounds. I lost that fish about 20 feet behind the boat. I hooked another nice lightning trout, maybe 3.5 pounds. I got that fish in right back there. I lost that one too. I just hooked that little pan-sized rainbow back there, and there's no way I was going to lose him. He was pinned right through the lower jaw. He grabbed that orange trigger minnow, and he wasn't getting away. There's no way. First fish. If I'd had clients on the boat, and I'm just out scouting today, I'm letting everything go. That's why I just lifted that pan-sized rainbow into the boat. Is that the best way to land a fish? No, that's the best way to lose a trout, actually, or one of the best ways. But since, I'm not worried about landing fish today, I just lifted that guy in. I didn't want to touch him, and I didn't want to net him. I just wanted to flip him off the hook and get him back in the water. Trout are very releasable at these kind of temperatures, 56 degrees right now on the surface, so they're going to have no problem surviving. Get them back in the water and you don't abuse them. The first fish I hooked today, the biggest of the 3 fish, I probably would have lost that fish with a client. I was doing everything correctly, keeping the rod tip down, keeping the line tight, just working it, and probably 15-20 feet behind the boat, he just shook the hook. Now, that's an indication that he didn't really inhale the bait, he didn't pounce all over it, he was lightly hooked and he shook the hook. The second fish, that was all my fault. Again, I wasn't trying to, do my best to land him, but when I'm in this boat by myself and I've got my big net, it's really awkward to land fish on the port corner back there. I got the downrigger in my way, and my net is long, and with the rubber mesh in there, it's fairly heavy. So you've got to maneuver over the downrigger with your left hand while you're keeping the line tight with your right. Well, I didn't want to do that, so I tried to move the fish back over towards, a midships, and got the rod tip up high, and when I did, the fish started thrashing on the surface. Number one, well, probably not the number one way. Number one way to lose a fish is to give them slack, okay? Number 2 way to lose a trout is to get them up thrashing on the surface. Anytime they can get their head out of the water and into the air, the chances of you losing that fish go up quite a bit. So anything you can do to keep that fish underneath the water, beneath the surface, that is just going to help you land more trout. More of the trout you hook, you're going to land if you can keep them below the surface. I didn't make that up. Learned that from Gary Coe, president of Kokanee Power, and he's won a whole bunch of money in kokanee tournaments. We were fishing one time. We were catching kokanee just for fun. And, they were jumping and we were hooting it up, and it was a good day. But he told me, he says, if we were in a tournament, when those fish came up to jump or thrash like that, we would stick the rod tip in the water and crank them back down under the surface, because it's much harder for them to shake the hook underneath the surface than it is up on top. And I've always remembered that. So I think that second fish, had a client been on the rod, probably would have landed that fish because he wasn't thrashing. If I could have had the client just stand in that corner, grind on the fish, I'd have had both hands on the net, and I probably could have reached right out there, scooped him, and we'd have had a nice lightning trout in the box. That was our goal. But as it was, trying to maneuver the fish, I high sticked it. That's something you don't want to do. If they're way behind the boat, you can elevate that rod tip and get away with it. But when they're getting close to the boat, I like to have that rod tip fairly level with the water, not aimed at the fish, but kind of level with the water, level with the boat. And if that fish starts to thrash, drop that rod tip while you continue to crank. A couple things you never want to do. You never want to give them slack, and you never want to do any of that wicked tuna pumping. That stuff looks cool, but if your timing isn't perfect, you're going to raise up and you're not going to reel fast enough on the way down, and guess what? You're going to give them slack. Everything is magnified if you're using a dodger. Dodgers help fish get away. Sometimes you got to use dodgers, but if you got a dodger in the mix, just be aware that it's just something for the fish to fight against and to develop slack against, especially if they get up on the surface. So that means you have to work doubly hard to keep the fish down underneath the surface of the water. Anyway, just a few tips and notes on fighting fish and landing fish. And if you kind of follow that philosophy, you're going to land more and bigger fish, more and bigger trout throughout your trout fishing career. If you want to get out on the water with me and learn firsthand, go on over to fishhuntshoot.com. You can check our guiding calendar, see what's available. You can hit the waters at Collins Lake with me, and we'll talk trout fishing. We won't only talk presentation, we'll talk about the finer points of trout fishing, like how to fight fish, how to net fish, how to approach a lake and decide, you know, what you need to do to figure out what the conditions are and what the bite is going to be on any given day. And of course, if you're looking for gear, you'll find that at fishhuntshoot.com as well. I'm Kel Kellogg. I'm out of here for now. I'll be back real soon talking fishing, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Thanks a lot.